Welcome to The Daily Decant, your 5-minute briefing on the world of wine. Each episode delivers practical insights to help you choose, order, and talk about wine with more confidence in everyday social settings. Let's get into today's decant. Today's Wednesday, and today's episode tells one of the most genuinely exciting stories in modern wine, a story of rebellion, neglected old vineyards, and a hot, dusty farming region that nobody associated with fine wine until a small group of young winemakers decided to prove everyone wrong. We're in Swartland. Swartland, the name means blackland in Afrikaans, referring to the dark appearance of a native shrub that once covered the region. It sits about an hour north of Cape Town, and for most of its history, was known almost exclusively for wheat farming, sheep grazing, and bulk wine grape production destined for inexpensive blended wines and brandy. The climate here is genuinely harsh. It's really hot, dry summers, very little irrigation infrastructure, and a really unglamorous reputation within South Africa's own wine industry. But buried within that unglamorous landscape was something extraordinary. Old, dry-farmed bush vines, many planted in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, that hadn't survived precisely because nobody had bothered to rip them out and replant with something more fashionable. These vines, grown without irrigation under harsh conditions, had spent decades developing deep root systems and producing small, intensely concentrated berries, exactly the kind of fruit that, in the right hands, produces extraordinary wine. The turning point came in the early 2000s when a small group of young, independently minded winemakers, including Eben Sadie, widely considered the godfather of the movement, along with Adi Badenhorst and others, began seeking out these old, neglected vineyards specifically because of their quality potential, working with minimal intervention in the cellar. Native yeasts, minimal or no new oak, little to no filtration, and a guiding philosophy that the vineyard and the vintage should speak for themselves rather than being shaped into a predetermined house style. This loose collective became known informally as the Swartland Revolution, and by the 2010s, their wines were attracting serious international critical attention, completely transforming the region's reputation from an afterthought into one of the most talked about wine areas in the world. The producer who best represents where this movement has arrived today is Mullineux Family Wines. Founded in 2007 by husband and wife team Chris and Andrea Mullineux. Andrea, originally from Northern California and trained at UC Davis, and Chris, a viticulturist, settled in Swartland specifically because they believed the ancient granite and schist soils and old, dry farmed vineyards held the potential for truly great wine. And the results have proven them empathetically correct. Mullineux has been named South African Winery of the Year an unprecedented 5 times by the respected Platter's Guide, and Andrea was named International Winemaker of the Year by Wine Enthusiasts in 2016, becoming the first woman to receive that recognition. Their single vineyard, single soil type wines, labeled by soil type as granite, schist, and iron, are some of the most precise and terroir expressive wines made anywhere in South Africa, built primarily around 2 grapes, Old Bush Vine, Chenin Blanc, and Syrah. Beyond Mullineux, the broader Swartland scene includes Sadie Family Wines, Eben Sadie's own project, making some of the most sought-after and critically acclaimed wines in the entire country, including the legendary Comella, Syrah blend, and the white blend Palladius. A.A. Badenhorst Family Wines, making characterful, distinctive blends from old mixed variety vineyards, a style historically common with the region called the field blend, where multiple grape varieties are planted together and harvested and fermented as one wine. And Lammerschok, another estate working in a similarly minimal intervention, old vine-focused style. And a note on the wine itself, Swartland Reds, particularly Syrah and Syrah-based blends, tend toward a savory, spice, almost wild character, black olive, dried herb, violets, dark berry fruit with a freshness that's surprising given the region's heat, a direct result of those old deep-rooted vines. The whites, dominated by Chenin Blanc, range from crisp and mineral to richly textured and complex, depending on how the specific vineyard and winemaking approach it. We're going to spend all of tomorrow on Chenin Blanc specifically because it deserves its own dedicated conversation. I know we've had an episode on it before as well, or at least we've talked through it a couple of times. But today's practical takeaway is that Swartland represents one of the most genuinely exciting developments in the entire wine world over the last 2 decades. Proof that old vines, minimal intervention, and a willingness to work in an unfashionable place can produce some of the most celebrated wine anywhere on earth. If you want to taste what serious, thoughtful, terroir-driven winemaking looks like outside of the established prestige regions, start here. There's also a broader lesson buried in the story that applies well beyond South Africa. Some of the most exciting developments in wine come not from established prestige regions doubling down what already works, but from overlooked places where ambitious people see potential nobody else has bothered to recognize yet. Tomorrow, again, Chenin Blanc, South Africa's signature white grape. You won't want to miss it. That's today's Daily Decant. If you found this helpful, be sure to subscribe and share with your friends so you can continue building your wine knowledge in just a few minutes a day. See you tomorrow for the next decant.